children, people of all kinds, whoever you are, everyone's welcome to this dojo. It's your boy Peter here, aka Peter Freako 10, baby. Bringing you guys our episode of the Movie Review Show, where the good movies are always reviewed. Alright, back into our movie review. And on today's episode, we're back to the Pokemon movies. Now, for those who haven't been keeping up with the channel, about a few months ago, last time we covered Pokemon, we covered Pokemon the first movie, which, as you guys know, was Pokemon's first leap to the big screen. And just to give a quick recap, I really liked that film. I thought it was a really great way for the makers to show what they can do with Pokemon when translating it to movie form, and it worked for what they set out to do. I don't understand why it got targeted by the stinkers, or the critics for that matter, because it's a fun movie. It's a solid little animated film that really goes for it in terms of scale, scope, and just being a film that is what it sets out to be, a Pokemon movie, and it succeeds. If you guys haven't seen my review, check it out. Well, another reason why I wanted to review that movie was in prep for this one, because continuing on, we're talking about the sequel, Pokémon the Movie 2000, or Pokémon 2000 the movie, depending on how I put in the title of the video. But have the team managed to catch Thundershock in a bottle again? Well, grab your Pokemon, your Ask Ketchum uniform, and let's catch them all again, because we got to in Pokemon 2000, the movie. Now, just like the first, Pokemon 2000, the movie, actually has two release dates, so some may find it confusing. In Japan, it came out in the year 1999, so around the same time this first one came to the States, and then a year later, it came to the US in 2000. And the Japanese version is directed by Kunihiko Yuyama, who comes back to direct this film, and the English version, or the US version, is directed by Michael Hagney, who had directed the English version of the first. And just like the first, it's based on the popular anime series of the same name on Kids WB, which was airing its second season around this point, with this movie taking place around the Orange Islands aspect of the show. And of course, like the first, this is actually based on the popular Nintendo series of the same name. Now, the success of the first movie in Japan and later the States convinced the team to get a sequel going, with Takashi Sudo being brought back into the writing room for the sequel. Given the enormous success of the first, Takashi was allowed more creative freedom with the sequel, especially since Nintendo was still working on Pokemon games. That's why the show created the Orange Islands arc of the show to serve as filler before the new games. When writing the script, he didn't want to repeat the story elements in the first one with it being another trainer battle, but wanted the story to explore a much grander elemental narrative, with the focus being more on ecological balance, global climate destruction, natural elements, and how human greed can disrupt nature. With the original draft that he wrote, it wasn't going to have Ash, the crew, and Team Rocket being the focus, but rather new characters that would get caught in the middle of all this, as he felt the series was losing its fatigue up to this point, as he felt it was getting a bit too predictable. The executives objected to this, though, and insisted that while they liked the elements of the script, Ash and the crew had to remain. So he went back to do a second rewrite, incorporating them into the action. He also used the second rewrite that would create a new Pokemon made for this movie. Enter Lugia, who Takashi created as a passive force who tried to resolve conflict rather than start it, working with a major marine legend and the game designers to create what he called a Pokemon that was the beast of the sea. OLM approved of the script and allowed the film to enter production with a budget of $30 million, a much higher budget than that of the first $5 million. And this allowed them to get more ambitious with the animation department, as it allowed them to work with more CGI, 3D modeling, and camera movements, lighting, compositing, and weather effects, seeing as how the story would have weather as a focus. And even with some of the issues they had making the first, they learned a lot during that time, thus why they weren't as common here. Production wrapped after a certain amount of time, and it was released in Japan. I can't find anything about the reviews, but it was financially successful in Japan like the first. So of course, in the States, Pokemon the first movie is a success. success despite its reviews. So Warner Brothers, finding out that a sequel is out in Japan, decided to bring that movie to the States, with only a few months' time after the original movie's release. Like the first, they also insisted on changes from the Japanese release to make it appeal to an American audience, with Michael Hagney having to re-edit and work with the film to make it appeal to an American audience. This wasn't as stressful or severely as it was with the first. Despite that, they had some stuff where they wanted aspects of the story more explained, they wanted the music to be different, and just like the first, they wanted big name actors for the movie, with the role of the Collector, the main villain, being offered to Patrick Stewart or Ian McKellen. Ironically enough, both of those guys would work together on X-Men, which is also ironic because this was released around the same time X-Men was. And I think that was also easier making the movie, with Michael Hagney even admitted that lessons he learned from the first he carried over into making this. Eventually, production wrapped for the US release. And just like the first, 2000 came with a massive marketing push behind it. With the Poke Flu effect back in full swing, despite this time, there wasn't school for kids. Kids skipped family gatherings and were sneaking off. Theaters were selling Pokemon trading cards again with H and Mew cards, the birds that were in the film. Warner Bros. Started making toys for the film and plushies. There was an online web game called Pokémon 2000 Adventure. The Kids WB channel did a special for this movie that was hosted by Kel Mitchell of Nickelodeon, where they showcased the music that would be in the film. There was a music video from the band called Westlife, whose song Flying Without Wings appears in the film's end credits. Burger King got involved again, making toys. Thankfully, no kid was killed choking on a Pokeball this time. The film would also be accompanied by a short that they did for it, just like the first. This time, it's Pikachu's Rescue Adventure. And the film was released on July 21st, 2000 in the US, where unlike the first, which opened to #1 at the box office, probably having a lot to do with the fact that it had the advantage of a November release, so not much was playing other than The Bone Collector, which it knocked off. This, though, they had to put it out in the summer, and you had it facing competition with films like What Lies Beneath and X-Men, placing it at the #3 spot and grossing over $19 million, which was definitely less than the first $31 million opening. But it still made money, as by mid-August, it made over $40 million. So it definitely made over its budget. I think Warner Brothers was hoping that it was going to make more money than the first. That doesn't seem to be the case, though. On top of that, like the previous film, this film received negative reviews from critics, albeit a bit better reviewed than the first, with the first having a 17%. This one has a 19%. Critics praised the film for its message and the plot being easier to follow. That being said, other critics criticized the film for the animation, which they felt was choppy. They felt the film offered very little appeal to adult, and for being what they felt, the film being somewhat tame, which I disagree with. The audience side seems to enjoy it more, as on that side is a 56%. On IMDb, it is a 6.1 out of 10. So it seems like the film has its fans. Now, like I said in my review of Pokémon the first movie, I'm a new fan to Pokemon, and I got into it with the help of friends. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to check out the show too, was because of this film and to get prepared for it. But I also wanted to see what all the hype was about. And I knew what it was gonna be about. However, seeing the teaser at the end of the VHS of the first one and seeing it all in action, I got really excited, which is why I wholeheartedly annoyed them to finishing the rest of season 1 so we could make our way to the Orange Islands aspect of the show. Which I gotta say, despite being filler, so far, this is my favorite season of the show. I like the different feel of it, I like the look of it, and I like the Pokemon that they added. The characters are cool. I even like the Tracey character. I don't hate Brock, but there is points when he does get on my nerves doing the whole, always trying to get with women shtick that he's done since the first season. I don't know. I never found it funny. But I still wanted to see this show and see what it was like. And seeing this teaser really made me excited. And we decided that we would take a night out and see it once we got through a good chunk of the Orange Island show, which I needed. Because the day I saw this film with friends, I had a bad day. And them knowing the tough day it was, they decided to treat me to a film to cheer me up. And this was that film. And I had read that a lot of Pokemon fans who have seen this film already seem to have loved it more than the first. And I was interested in seeing if that was the case. As me, myself, I didn't believe it, as I really enjoyed the first, and I didn't know how they would be able to basically outdo what they did so well with the first. And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised how much I loved this film. And so far, this is my favorite Pokemon movie. And it's the type of film where I see that the team really took a risk with the sequel, but took a risk in the right way and created one of the most engaging, eye-catching sequels that truly delivers and builds upon the foundation set by its predecessor. And despite that, it's also got a bit of a heart to it, which you got some of in the first, but this film takes those moments to a whole new other level. And I'll get deeper into that later. But with the cast in this film, a lot of the actors from the first one and TV show come back. You got Veronica Taylor comes back as Ash Ketchum, Rachel Lillis as both Misty and Jessie, Eric Stewart, James himself, Maddie Blaustein also comes back. And you also got some new actors like Amy Birnbaum as Melody, Eric Roth as Lugia, and Neil Stewart. So it's not a huge cast again. In fact, some of the actors you might have to basically know voice actors to really kind of be like, oh, him. So nothing too big. But getting into the plot of this movie is basically, it continues on from the show where we see Ash, played by Veronica Taylor, Misty, played by Rachel Lillis. And if you've been keeping up with the show, you would learn that Brock stayed behind to woo a veterinarian while they continue on his journey. And Tracey has taken his place, who they met on the beach at one of the islands. And they're sailing through the Orange Islands as Team Rocket, Jesse and James, voiced by Rachel Lillis and Eric Stewart, continue chasing them to get Pikachu for Giovanni. During this whole thing, a storm goes through the area and they end up finding themselves on this island with this girl named Melody, played by Amy Birnbaum, who welcomes them with open arms as the island they are on lives by this prophecy that someone will come to the island, complete this journey, and will bring them good. And that journey is that there's these 3 islands where there's like these crystal balls on them, and they need to bring the balls to the shrine, as each of the crystal balls represent these particular birds that are Pokemon that the people on the island look to like their gods. So Ash agrees to take on the journey, all the while dealing with this guy called Lawrence III, played by Neil Stewart, who has spent his life collecting Pokemon, so much so that he has built this ship to capture them all. But he's doing it more so to gain trophies as opposed to treating them like animals and human beings. And he is after this new Pokemon that is rare called Lugia. And meanwhile, as that's going on, you also have Ash, his mother, and the professor trying to get to the islands to save Ash, all the while dealing with the fact that their flight they're on is in the middle of a storm. Will Ash be able to find the crystal balls and stop the collector, or will Lugia be another piece to his collection? Now, being released only a few months after the original, on both sides, the Japanese and the American side, I feel the team did a commendable job with this movie. And in some ways, I feel improve upon the already great first one. And that starts with the story. I feel the best way to describe this movie is if Disney made a Pokemon movie. That's the best way to describe it, as it's got that message inserted in there, believing in yourself, going the distance, while not being a musical. It's got a bit of that message in there, and even when you look at the movie soundtrack, a lot of them kind of have that Disney vibe to them. But at the same time, it does its own thing with the formula, so it can insert it into the world of Pokemon so that it doesn't feel out of place. And I really like that. I thought it gave the film some heart and took those small moments in the first, like the moment where Pikachu is crying over Ash's body, and made them center stage. And for Pokemon, it's handled really well and can be touching in some moments. I also like the setup. I like the idea of Ash being the one who goes to these islands to find these balls, and he's going through these trials and tribulations to get these balls, and each of the islands represent like snow, fire, and like water, like the birds that he's trying to save. I thought it gave the viewer an emotional connection to Ash in the fact that anyone who's been in this situation like this does have that moment where they are truly questioning whether they're the one for this job, which is what Ash begins doing as he begins questioning whether or not he is the chosen one, and also finding help in the most unlikely of places, which is where Team Rocket comes in. You have them deciding whether or not they should help Ash despite the torment he's put them through, kind of building upon what happened in the first, how they helped a bit. And that's why I like them more in both these films. They're a lot less annoying here. And the film just, not only that, has this scale to its story that really makes it immersive and really takes the big elements of the first one that are in scope, that were done well, and makes them bigger than they were. As I feel like the team understood what a good, bigger, and better meant, as opposed to just making it big for the sake of big. And I also got to give credit to the writer for not retreading the action of the first or the show and it being triggered through Pokemon battles, but rather seeing Misty, Ash, and Tracey, as well as Team Rocket in some areas, involved in actual action as the result of the villain. There's a great feeling of danger in those moments, that they could really be hurt. Once even the collector villain is revealed, I like the fact that it's a human this time that's not Giovanni, but rather someone who's addicting to catching Pokemon and looks at them as a trophy as opposed to living creatures. I like the large ship that he's built with that telescope and computer, and it's like a floating house a bit, or a floating facility with all these like propellers that help it fly. I thought it was a very different villain from Mewtwo in the first. Now, with that said, there is one aspect or a couple aspects of the script that I wish could have been done a bit better. The first one being is that Ash and him could have had more tension, because it really doesn't seem like there's any sense of an interaction between the two, so you don't get the feeling that there's any feeling of tension between the two, or why these two are fighting beyond the story just demanding them to be at each other's throats. And I thought that that was a missed opportunity, especially when later on you see him at the end. Spoiler, he suddenly, despite him seeing the battle, and I think that area is handled well, where he sees the battle and decides to turn a new leaf. It really doesn't feel like that conflict is carried through or as pushed forward into the forefront as I think it should be, because you don't have that moment of Ash being like, hey, what you're doing is wrong, look at the chaos you're causing, despite him seeing it. I think it really would have hit more home had there just been that talk with him and him being like, what have I done, as opposed to how it's done here. Despite that, I do like where they go with him at the end. And I do think he is a great villain. There's also some characters in the story that I didn't really care as much. Like, they try to have the Melody character be like this whole love triangle between Misty, I almost said Brock, I meant Ash and Melody. And it just doesn't go anywhere. And it's just there to just say, hey, shippers, do you want to see Misty get jealous? This proves that she has a crush on Ash. And it's like, yeah, you could have done that forward. But other than that, I thought the script is well done despite those couple of story elements. Even with the Lugia aspect, I thought Lugia was a really cool Pokemon. I like how he speaks through the mind, and his introduction comes up. He's very godly-like, speaking in like this angelic sort of looking environment with the color change. I thought it was a really cool introduction for his character. So yeah, I gotta tip my hat to the people who made this film and really went as far as to expanding what made the first work so well, going into it with this one. Now, a lot of that is also true on the technical side of this film, because the direction here is a huge improvement over the first. I don't get the critics saying this film looks cheap or it's TV level animation, because I think this is a better looking film than its predecessor. The $30 million is on the screen, and the new techniques they got involved with to bring this film to life really stand out. Visually, it's got a different look and tone to the first. I like the way it's lit now with the more colorful look that they gave the film to kind of emphasize the Orange Island side of the show and to emphasize the film's hopeful tone. I think the animation has a much more expanded scope to it and a larger scale, especially with its shot and the techniques that they used with this film. The newer ones like the animated camera in some shots, which creates some beautiful shots, like the moment when all three islands are together, or the shot where the camera pans up through the hieroglyphics. It's a little bit akin to Titan AE. I do feel that film was a bit more ambitious, but with what they were able to get with the camera in this, it really does show the small ambition that they were able to go for and achieve with this movie. And just how the team was able to work with colors and weather effects, working with water, fire, and electricity. It's all pleasing to the eyes and looks very good. And you have some areas that are hand-drawn, which look great, but they also are accompanied with a mix of CGI, like the big ship with the collector, which is mostly CGI, but I think it works for what they were going for, and it's not bad looking CGI. Yeah, how it's used, I think, accomplishes what they were going for, and there's portions of hand-drawn in that, so I really respect that it's not all CGI. Mostly, it's like the first with the Mewtwo's castle and the doors opening. That's pretty much what it reminds me of, and there I thought it was done well, and it's done the same here. But I do like how on the ship, there's this beautiful looking mural that the collector has where it's like these angelic cherubs on the wall. That amazed me that they even included that. I thought that that was a really eye-catching use of animation and a beautiful painting that they had. And it surprised me that they included that in this film, especially for something like Pokemon. And when the action scenes happen, they are very well animated. They're done with a lot of speed. I think they get a lot out of the hand-drawn and CGI crew for those moments, and the energy is definitely on display. The talent is there. Like that scene where the collector's ship is falling apart and they're running down the side and pieces of it are coming down. Or the battles with the bird and the effects with like the 3D electricity there. It's all amazingly done and really shows that the team were really ready to go above and beyond what they achieved with the first. Nothing feels like it's replicating, just do the first one again, but just make it more flashy and more loud and obnoxious. No, they did it the right way here. And just like the first, the designs still look great on the Pokemon. They all have a characteristic that really defines them and makes them stand out, and really are cute and just all around really great. Everyone knows the designs and everyone loves them and has them. And just like the first, there's a very good score, but they also incorporate a great soundtrack. I love the Donna Summer song, The Power of One. I thought it emphasized the movie's soul and message about how one person's actions can make a difference. I liked the Weird Al song that they had, Everybody Pokemon, which surprises me that they got those two. I mean, Weird Al is one thing, but Donna Summers, that's a powerhouse. And of course, you gotta talk about, because I know my friend will kill me if I don't talk about it, Flying Without Wings. I love that song. I think, honestly, it really pushes forward why I think this is the best soundtrack of the Pokemon movies so far. I've always liked Westlife's work, and to have them in a film like this, I thought was great. And it really made you leave the theater humming this great music. So overall, on a technical side, this film is a huge improvement over its predecessor. But also, I think that the directors get a lot out of their cast too. And I think with the more emotional stuff that they're working with in this story, I think it elevates their performance beyond what was in the show. Veronica Taylor, I have to say, I think this is her best performance as Ash. I think because she knew about the emotional stuff that she was going to work with in the story, I thought it helped elevate her to push her performance beyond what it was in the show, as there's a lot more scenes where she's reacting to a lot more dangerous and more emotional centered moments, like the moments with the collector, or that one scene with them in the cage, or when she's walking through the snow and she's doubting herself. I really thought it gave Veronica a lot to work with and showcased her performance beyond being just a voice actor. And I really feel like people seem to forget that voice acting is a tough job, because they have nothing to look at beyond just a script. And later on, it's animated through their voices and their emotions in the room. And I think Veronica understood what they were going for, and I think really put that into her performance and really made it work. But I also think she still has the snarky side of Ash, like when Team Rocket is introduced and they're talking about how it's us on the big screen. She goes, I'll catch it on video. That was funny. So they still hold on to that side of Ash while still doing something different. So if you're hoping that's there, you're going to get it. But also, Rachel Lillis does great once again as Misty and Jessie. I think she does a great job giving Misty the smart, stuck-up, bullheaded side she's been known to give her since the beginning of the show. And she does a great job with Jessie, giving her the spoiled princess side she has given her since the start of the show, and so full of herself and thinking like, we're gonna get this finally. And her back and forth with James, I thought was funny, like when they're talking about how Ash has ruined everything for them. But Eric Stewart, I gotta really give it to him as James. I think they work off each other great. I think the fact that the story's more emotionally driven with him too, as him and Jessie are basically trying to decide whether they should help or not, be good. And despite having that voice for James that he's used a lot since the show, I thought it worked, and it didn't take me out of the emotional side of what was going on in the situation itself. Even at the end when they have that moment that I won't spoil, it really showed where they went as characters. And it's why I like them more here in the movies than I do in the show. They actually feel like they have arcs to them. I even like the little quip he gives where they're talking about how, why are you guys helping us? Well, if we didn't save the world, there would be no people to do evil to. Or something like that. That I thought was funny. But Eric Stewart does great. Ted Lewis, he does well as Tracy. He's more the laid-back third wheel of the group, as opposed to Brock, who's very open about how head over heels in love he is at every woman. Tracy isn't as open about it, and you see him drawing a bit more, and that's why I like him in the show. And he's good in the movie, too. The actors playing the Pokemon themselves do great. They're just there to say one word, but they do well for what they're given. It'd be a long list to give off, so I'm not going to go deep into it. Amy Birnbaum, who does Melody, she does well for what she's given. Not much to say about her though, especially with where they take her character, but I think she does well for what was asked of her. But I think the two that really stick out to me are Neil Stewart as the Collector and Eric Rath as Lugia. On Neil Stewart's side, he does a great job giving the Collector this snobby, full of himself attitude that really makes you hate him, like the scene where he's explaining his side about why he does what he does as the group is locked away in cages, and just how full of himself himself he is in his delivery and just how he's not listening to what the group is saying, it really makes you hate him and really makes you want to be like, yeah, dude, you're a dick. All you care about is trophies and having them in cages. And I don't get people saying he's bland. I really don't. I thought it was a really interesting villain because we never seen a villain in Pokemon who becomes so addicted to Pokemon that he views them beyond being animals and more so trophies. So I thought that was interesting. And there are some moments in his delivery where I could see Patrick Stewart voicing him, and I do wish they went with that. Eric Roth, I also think does great as Lugia, giving the character this godly voice to him that makes him stand out, especially in his entrance. So yeah, the voice acting is really solid, and you can tell that the team were really into the emotional side of the story that really elevates them beyond doing what was on the show and really saw it as a movie. But yeah, I really enjoy this movie, and I definitely think so far it's the best Pokemon movie. I've touched upon a few of the cons already, but we'll skip that aspect to the end of the video because bottom line, Pokemon 2000 I think is a solid sequel, or Pokemon 2000 the movie, well, that I think builds upon what made the first work and fixes the problems that plagued the first. So if you're a Pokemon fan and like the first, I highly recommend you go see Pokemon 2000. I think so far it's the best Pokemon movie and really makes me excited to see if 3 lives up to the hype. So when it comes down to it, the final verdict for Pokemon 2000 the movie is a 9.2 out of 10. And it's more than enough to earn the Alexandra Seal of Approval. Definitely a great ride for anyone who loves Pokemon, loves the world, and is looking to see where the show goes next. Check out this movie. So yeah, hopefully Pokemon 3 lives up to it. But yeah, that is my review for Pokemon 2000 the movie. And next time I am going to do a review on Chicken Run. I do got to get back to this game at some point, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I've just been tied up with other things, but I will get back to this because I want to beat it in time for Majora's Mask in December, and I'll get a review of it out, so that'll be getting back to soon. I'm also going to get back to Heavy Metal Fact 2, and I got a bunch of other films to review that I do want to talk about in games. Soldier of Fortune, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I'm also going to be working on a review of X-Men, and I will get back to the Mission Impossible review. I'm almost done with this. Just got to write up my pros and cons and the story, and you guys will be getting a review of that before I review the sequel. And that's what's to come. But for right now, I will see you guys there. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Pokemon 2000 the movie. Is this your favorite Pokemon movie? I'd love to know you guys' thoughts down below. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.